In this video, we are going to look at factoring the trinomial 5x squared plus 34x minus 48 in two different methods. We're going to do trial and error, and then we're going to do the grouping method. Let's start with trial and error. When we start with trial and error, we go ahead and we set up the parentheses for our two binomials. Now, I know my binomials have to start with 5x and x. And the reason I know that is because the first term of my trinomial right here is 5x squared. So when I do FOIL, 5x and x would be f of FOIL. When I do FOIL, my first step would be to multiply 5x times x, which would give me 5x squared. Now, think of FOIL, F-O-I-L. Let's jump to L, the last step. The last step is to multiply these last two terms, and these are going to be our constants. Now, these have to multiply to negative 48. So we need a list of factors of negative 48. Now, I know one has to be positive and one has to be negative, but for now I'm just going to write down the numbers and we'll worry about the signs later. Alright, so that's it. Those are all my factors of 48. Trial and error, the name of the game is you try something, if it doesn't work, you try something else. So pick your favorite pair of factors. Let's start with 3 and 16 and let's see what happens. So I'm going to put a 3 there and I'm going to put a 16 there. Now, I'm not going to worry about plus or minus just yet because I still want to see what I get when I do FOIL, and then I'll see if putting a plus sign or a minus sign would make it work. So let's do FOIL here. So 5x times x is going to give me 5x squared. Now let's do the O of FOIL, my outside. So that's going to give me 5x times 16, which is going to give me 80x. Again, I'm ignoring the signs for now. Inside would be right there, so that would be the I of FOIL, which would be 3 times x. And then my last two would be the 3 times the 16, which would give me the 48. So you can see I have the FOIL for my 4 steps. Now, let's look at these terms right here. These are the ones that I need to add up to 34x in this case. Now, it doesn't matter if these are plus or minus. I can already tell that an 80x and a 3x is not going to add up to 34. I can get 83 out of it, I can get 77 out of it, plus, minus, whatever, it's still not going to be 34. So I don't even need to worry about the signs. I already know that this combination doesn't work. But maybe if I switch the 16 and the 3, maybe it'll work. So let's try that next. But I'm going to cross this out because I know that this one does not work. Alright, so let's try again. Let's try 5x and x. And now let's see what happens if I switch the place of the 16. So we're going to see what happens if I switch the place of the 16 and the 3. So let's continue with FOIL. So that's still going to give me 5x squared. My outside is now going to give me 15x. Don't worry about the sign right now. My inside is going to give me 16x. And my last two should give me that 48 because that's what I want. But again, I can see right here 15x and 16x. If I add those together, if they're both positive, that gives me 31. If one is negative, that'll either give me a 1 or a negative 1. So nothing here is getting me to 34. So I'm going to cross this out, and we've exhausted the combination of 3 and 16. I know that that one doesn't work. Trial and error, let's try something else. Alright, so let's set it up again, 5x and x. Let's go with the 4 and the 12. Let's try those, see what happens. So I'm just going to put the 4 here and the 12 here. Okay, let's do FOIL, 5x squared. That will give me 60x. That will give me 4x. That will give me 48. Again, look at these middle terms, 60x and 4x. No matter how you put the signs, you're not going to get 34. You're either going to get 64, or if one of them's negative, you might get negative 56. But that's not going to get us to 34. So let's switch the 4 and the 12. Okay, let's save a little bit of space here. And let's just switch them. So let's make this the 12 and make this the 4. So that will change these right here. So I'm still going to get 5x squared, but now on my outside, I'm going to get 20x. My inside is going to be 12x. I'm still going to end with 48x. Now I've got 20x and 12x in the middle. Well, we're getting close to 34. That would give me 32, but still not the 34 that I need. So let's go back up here. No matter how I use the 4 and the 12, those aren't working. Now, I still have 3 more possibilities. That's going to take me a long time to check all of those. So I'm hoping as you're going through this, you're kind of starting to see some predictions, or maybe you can even start to throw out some numbers right away in your head saying, there is no way that those are going to work. Like some of them just aren't going to give you the right combination. Or maybe you're going to say, ooh, this pair kind of looks like it's going to help me get to where I need to be. So I'm going to set up another pair of parentheses. Let's cross this one out. This one didn't work. All right, so I have 5x and I have x. Now, keep in mind I need 34 in the middle. And just look at what's left. 1 and 48. Well, no matter where I put the 48 might get multiplied by 5. That's going to be way too big. And I could put the 48 right here, and then the 1 right here. That's going to be 48x and 5x. That's still not going to give me the 34 that I need. So we want to try to predict or see the pair that's going to work. So when I look at the 8 and 6, I see something promising. Because if I put the 8 out here, that tells me that when I do FOIL, that 8 is going to get multiplied by the 5, which is 40. And then the 6, if I have 40x and 6x, I can make 34 out of that. So let's do FOIL and check it out. All right, so that's going to give me 5x squared. There's my outside, which is going to give me 40x. There's my inside, which is going to give me 6x. And I know I'm going to end with 48 because I picked 8 and 6, which multiplies to 48. So now I'm going to look here, 40x and 6x. Can I get those to be 34x? Yes, I can. If the 40 is positive and if the 6 is negative, a positive 40x minus 6x will give me the plus 34x that I need. Now I know my 48 should be minus, so now I just have to pick the signs and figure out what the signs are going to be right here and right here. Okay, so I want a positive 40x, so I need to think about where that 40 came from. Well, that 40 came from this 5x being multiplied by that 8. So the 8 is the sign that I care about here. So if the 8 was positive, that 8 would get multiplied by the 5, which would give me positive 40. So that means the 6 has to hold the negative, so it would be negative 6 times x. And if I continue to combine my like terms, it's going to work out. So I know that I've finally got my final answer here, 5x minus 6 and x plus 8. So that's trial and error. Now let's take a look at this factor by grouping, which is also called the AC method. The reason why it's called the AC method is because if you think of ax squared plus bx plus c, the numbers in the A spot and the C spot are the numbers that you use to start this method. So we have 5x squared plus 34x minus 48. So our A is 5, our B is 34, and our C is negative 48. So when we do factor by grouping, the first step is to multiply A times C. So this is going to be 5 times negative 48, which is going to give me negative 240. Step 2 is you use the negative 240 and you find factors of that. Now, your goal when you're finding factors of negative 240 is that the sum of those two factors is whatever your b term is. So in this case, our b is 34. So we want factors of negative 240 that add up to positive 34. So again, let's just start with the numbers 1 and 240, 2 and 120, 3 and 80, 4 and 60, 5 and 48, 6 and 40. Now, I could keep going, but hopefully when you get to 6 and 40, you see that those are the pair that will add up to positive 34. Remember, if we're multiplying to negative 240, one of these factors has to be negative. So if I make the 6 negative and the 40 positive, negative 6 plus 40 will give me that positive 34 that I'm looking for. Okay, let's move on to step 3. In step 3, what you do is you take the original trinomial and you rewrite it. And what you do is you break up the number in the middle. So you're going to break up that plus 34 into those two factors that you found. So I'm going to turn that into minus 6x plus 40x minus 48. So basically now I have 4 terms in my polynomial. I don't have a trinomial anymore. I have 4 terms. But those 2 terms in the middle, the negative 6x plus 40x, those are going to add up to 34x. So these are still equivalent polynomials. Basically what I did was I took the combining like terms step and I undid it. So I broke up 34 into minus 6x plus 40x. Now you do factor by grouping. So you're going to group these together and you're going to group these together. So you're going to look for a GCF amongst those 2 pairs of terms. So between 5x squared and 6x, the GCF is just x. And that will leave behind 5x minus 6. And then you're going to look at 40x minus 48. That GCF is 8. And that leaves behind a 5x minus 6, which is good because if you remember when we learned factor by grouping, you want that binomial to be the same. And then what you do is you use these terms right here, the x plus 8. That's going to be the first binomial of our factored answer. And then the binomial that's the same, that is the other one. So I still get the same answer. I happen to write the x plus 8 first instead of the 5x minus 6 first, but it doesn't matter. When you multiply those together, you're still going to get 5x squared plus 34x minus 48. So we can see that no matter which method it was that we used, we get the same answer. So hopefully after you do these a few times, one method will lend itself to you. You'll find one method that you like better and find the method you like and go ahead and stick with it.